Hey everyone, I've got a Blade 450 3D RC helicopter. I've put the electronics in an Align Hughes 500E fuselage. I purchased that offline. Um, I've had a few people ask what kind of modifications, if any, I've had to do in order to get the electronics from the Blade 450 to fit into this fuselage. They're all really minor um, modifications that need to be done in order for it to work properly. I believe even if you're using the Align 450, I think it's the SE model that this fuselage is actually made for. I understand that you still have to do some modifications as well on that. So it seemed to work out fine for me. I think you assembled everything in one night. The kit comes pretty much as you see it here, obviously without the electronics. Landing gear is not installed. That's the only thing you have to do to the fuselage, other than windows, if you want to have the windows put in. Some guys glue them in. I opted to use tape. It makes it easier for me to get the electronics in and out of the helicopter. You can actually get your fingers into the holes where the windows are. So that way I can just take them out and retape them if I want them back in. So with that said, I've got everything loosened up, all the hardware, most of it removed, so that I can take the electronics out and show you how I've gone and done some of the modifications, what I would suggest you do, and what I've done. I guess that's it, so I'll go ahead and start taking it apart. I'll start with the tail. These screws, the ones that come in the kit, the screws are too short in order to fit on here properly. So I ended up taking these from an old servo that holds the servo case together, and they ended up, it was the same thread, it worked for me. But the ones that come with the kit are too short, so you have to, in order to use this fin, you have to get the longer hardware. For the spacers that go in between the gear case and the fin here. So that's the first mod that I ended up, and I also I reinforced this. It's pretty flimsy. It just, there's a little notch that this sets in, and you glue it there. I used Gorilla Glue, not only on this but also on the fuselage. That helped reinforce it and put two screws down the top to help stiffen that up, make it a little more durable. And the three screws on the tail of the gear case here. Again, I've got them loosened up, so you take one half off, bearings on one side, remove the linkage from the gear case, and take the other half off. That's it for the gear case. You want to make sure on this belt, once you know it's in the correct position, that you just take a piece of tape, run it through there, so that the belt can't get twisted. It can be kind of a pain in the butt to make sure that that belt is running in the proper direction. Basically, it runs off of a shaft that's parallel with the main shaft. There's a gear on there, the belt attaches to that, and then runs in this direction. And what you need it to do is turn these blades on the gear case. You need to turn clockwise as you're looking at it from this side. In order to do that, rather than the belt going this way, is to travel from here, twist a slight bit, go on the top, come back down, and then twist up to go on the other side. And that's turning the blades, again, clockwise. Main rotors go clockwise. Tail rotor, as you're looking at the helicopter from its left side, goes clockwise. So you really want to make sure that you have that done right. You can have the blades and the belt turning in the proper direction, but actually have this belt twisted inside. It can be 360 degrees turned one way or the other. It's still going to work. On the bench, once you spool it up and try and take off, though, it causes a lot of stress, a lot of extra friction. It's happened to me, and the end result is not good. The case actually blew apart, just shattered into 100 pieces. Probably not 100 pieces, but blades flew off, couldn't find them, didn't know where they went. So make sure that belt's going the right way. that's pretty much it. Everything else it's ready to be taken apart. The front nose held on with magnets. It's got a couple of pins for lining it up. The fuselage. Again, the magnets I've seen in some videos where these have fallen off. Unfortunately, they don't fall down. They usually end up going up into the blades, and that's, you basically say kind of goodbye to your helicopter. Obviously, it can be repaired, but that's going to cause a lot of damage. So it'd be good idea, I think. I haven't done it yet, but I'd like to add a couple more magnets just to make sure that stays secure on there. And you can buy replacement parts. I've got a hole in mine, if you can see that. That's just from dropping it on the floor accidentally. I used to have weights up in the front. I've added some lights. I'm not done with that. I don't know that I like that, but so what I have in the front to balance everything out for extra weight is actually the 4 AA batteries that go in this device. That's what powers the lights, and the lights will last forever on those 4 batteries. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do for the nose. And then now, on the other side, everything in there is going to just slide right out. I'm going to grab another piece of tape. And this is to hold the tail servo linkage in place. This makes it easier, more so for when you're installing it. When you're taking it out, it's just going to slide right out. But that will keep that in place when you go to take it out. So that's it. There are the electronics for the 453D. The blocks that they provide you, it's basically pieces of wood that are stacked or layered together, and they can come apart. Mine did come apart and actually cause the helicopter to go back in the fuselage. There are a couple marks there. There's another thing I had to do is kind of grind away with a Dremel tool to widen out those areas in order for the linkage to be able to pass up and down through there. More so for inverted flight when your swash plate's all the way up, because those are going to stick out from the fuselage a little bit. So what I did with these to prevent them from breaking, other people have mentioned this, is put glue around the whole thing. I used, again, the Gorilla Glue. Used my finger and spread it around. And then this is just waterproof tape that I wrapped around there while it was drying, and just going to leave it there. I also, the way this, you need this to be sitting in here the proper way so that this tail boom is centered in the tail of the fuselage. So I just took a business card, cut some strips, and this is what my spacers are. For now, it's just temporary, and it works. So that brings it up so that tail boom is sitting in the tail of the fuselage, so it's centered. I think that's all you have to do with these. Eventually what I'd like to do is get the proper measurements and have blocks made up, whether I do it myself or have someone do it. I'm not sure whether I do it in aluminum or what. I'm not too concerned about the extra weight, but something that I'm not going to have to worry about coming apart. I use the stock linkage for the tail servo also, works fine. Moved the tail servo directly underneath. Seems to work. So that's it, and then reinstalling it, I got a couple styrofoam pieces that I will put in on either side of this. That also helps for vibration and just keeping this, again, centered in the middle, in the center of that tail section. And then putting it back in, it's always good to have the helicopter electronics set up the way you want it to be set up before putting it into the helicopter. That means having the gear case on, making sure the belt tension is tensioned properly, and that everything is working the right way. Do a test flight. You can put your stock landing gear back on and fly it basically the way it looks here, obviously with the gear case on, to get everything where you want it, and then install it again back into your fuselage. Again, I said the kit comes pretty much all pre-assembled except for the landing gear, the skids, and again, I used the Gorilla Glue on the insides. These go into place up here into the wooden platform. Little pieces will stick out. Once everything dries, use, whether it's a file, sandpaper. I used a Dremel tool, ground those little pieces of the legs off so that it's flush, so the electronics can fit in there properly. And that's pretty much all, other than, again, grinding this area out so the linkage can pass through there without rubbing or hitting. And then find out where the electronics sit in here the best way, and that you can balance it. Again, I had to set mine back a little bit farther, and then that's why I use the battery pack sits up under here and gives that a better center balance. So that's it. Everything going back together. Slides right in. They've got the way I fastened it in. I use some larger screws. The ones they give you with the kit. I don't know if you can see this. Alright, they're pretty small. There's not much to that. There's not much more to this, but it is a little bit bigger and a little bit longer. So it's gonna, I think, hold a little bit better. I only use screws in the front blocks because on the back they sit back so far. Even with the long screwdriver, it would be tough to get down to those blocks in the back because of me having to set the electronics back farther. Just because that's the way it ended up working for me. And I also wouldn't have to take this. I had to cut off about an inch in the tail of the fuselage in order for the gear case to be sticking out all the way, which you have to have. So the two screws hold the front block. I take wire ties. These are the two that I cut out before removing the electronics. So basically they go on either side of those blocks and attach around the wooden frame. There's just two of them put together, just like that. Put them in there, cinch them down, make sure everything's centered before you tighten them down. Cinch them down, and then to make sure, in case something does break, I use this Velcro strap. It goes in the frame of the helicopter, and then around the wooden frame and the fuselage, and get that down as snug as you can. They do come with windows, like I said. Again, I just use tape. Stick the window back in when you get the electronics and everything lined up the way you want it, and it's taped in there. It stays in pretty good, and it's kind of a pretty cool look, I think. And put it on the nose as well, so you get that black, that tinted window look to it. And that's it. Everything. Once you get everything, the electronics fastened in here and where you want it, you go back to the gear case, take your tape off, and put the gear case back together, making sure that you have the belt going in the right direction. And that's pretty much it. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and hopefully this has helped with anybody who's already asked the question of how I went about doing it, and anybody who is looking to possibly use a 450 helicopter and a fuselage. So that's it. Thanks for watching.